The second those courtroom doors swung open, you could feel it. This wasn't just a lawsuit. This was Prince Harry walking straight into a public humiliation trap. And the tabloids weren't even the ones holding the knife. Because here's the scandal-soaked truth nobody wants to say out loud. Harry didn't just show up to fight. He showed up to burn the whole system down, and the system looked him dead in the face and basically said, "Cute, now prove it." And oh, did it get ugly. London was serving cold, sharp, judgmental energy. The royal courts of justice? All wood, all power, all you're not special here. And there he is, Harry, stiff suit, tense jaw, eyes doing that haunted, cornered thing, like he's realizing too late that this isn't a Netflix doc where he controls the edit. This is court. And in court, they don't care about your trauma monologues. They care about receipts. But the real gag? It wasn't just the judge. It wasn't even the press gallery. It was the fact that behind the scenes, the people who were supposed to be his armor, his legal team, were basically slipping out the back like, yeah, we're not dying on this hill with you. Yes, his legal team started quitting. Not a cute reshuffle. Not a moving on to other projects. The kind of resignation that screams, we don't like where this is going, and we don't want our names attached when the walls collapse. And you know what that looks like in gossip terms? That looks like professional abandonment. Like your friends leaving your birthday party early because they can feel the fight coming. So what happened? What lit the fuse? Let's talk about the vibe shift. Because Harry came in swinging big allegations, big moral crusade, big I'm the victim and the media are criminals energy. He wanted the world to see him as the man bravely exposing the rotten machine. But then the defense walked in like, actually, we have another story, and it's messier. And suddenly, the courtroom wasn't about evil, shadowy journalists hacking into secrets. It became about something way more embarrassing, Harry's own past talking back. Because the defense didn't just deny accusations, they started painting a picture of Harry as someone who wasn't always hiding from the press, but sometimes, stay with me, welcomed them right into the party. And that's where the name Katie Nicholl drops like a bomb. Katie Nicholl, former diary editor, TV commentator, royal media figure, Harry accused her of being part of this alleged dirty info gathering world. But the defense basically clapped back with criminal activity? Babe, you invited her. Not metaphorically, not vaguely, literally. They brought up a private party back in 2011 at Kensington Roof Gardens where, according to the defense, Katie wasn't some lurking creep with binoculars. She was a guest, a welcomed one, the kind of guest you don't invite unless you're fine being seen with them. And then, oh, the humiliation cherry on top, the defense's vibe was basically, you can't call someone a criminal for knowing you when you were the one handing them the VIP wristband. Imagine sitting there hearing your own accusation get flipped into, no, Harry, you invited me to come party with you. It's giving you can't rewrite history when other people still have the screenshots. And it didn't stop there, because once that door opened, once the court heard social contact, overlapping circles, mutual familiarity, Harry's whole black and white narrative started bleeding gray. Then comes Rebecca English, Daily Mail royal editor, another name in his crosshairs. Harry's side brings up an email from 2010, and the implication is spicy. Rebecca allegedly asking a private jet company for flight details about Chelsea Davy, Harry's then girlfriend. Now, Harry's camp wanted this to scream illicit snooping, like some cloak and dagger operation. But the defense? They strolled in with that calm practice confidence and basically said, that email proves what? Exactly? Because here's the brutal courtroom reality, journalists ask questions. That's not automatically criminal. And the defense leaned hard into Rebecca's legitimacy, her long career, her professional access during Harry's working royal years, her credibility. So suddenly, in front of everyone, the people Harry was trying to cast as faceless villains started looking like real professionals with reputations on the line. And Harry started looking like someone on a personal vendetta tour. And I'm telling you, that's when the air in the courtroom got thick, because you could almost hear the unspoken question rising like smoke. Is this about justice or is this about rage? And here's the other layer that makes it even more brutal. Harry didn't just look tense. Observers described him as visibly strained, like the weight of this war is aging him in real time. Slumped posture, distant gaze, that drained, miserable aura of someone realizing the moment they imagined would be triumphant is turning into a public dissection. You know that feeling when you're arguing, convinced you're right, and then the other person calmly produces evidence that makes you look delusional? That, except it's happening in a historic courtroom in front of global media, and you're a prince who built a whole post-royal identity on this battle. Because that's the part people don't understand. This case isn't just one lawsuit. It's a cornerstone, a symbol of this is why we left, this is why we fight chapter in the Sussex saga. So if this crumbles, it's not just a legal loss, it's a narrative collapse. And the legal team quitting? That's not just paperwork. That's a signal flare. In the legal world, when your solicitors walk away mid-fight, it's basically the courtroom version of your own people whispering, we can't defend this story anymore. Because here's the quiet truth, lawyers can argue. They can spin, they can fight, but they can't manufacture evidence that doesn't exist, and they can't keep charging into a strategy that's getting shredded in open court. And the defense? They're not just defending a newspaper. They're turning this into a referendum on Harry's judgment, his relationship with the truth, and the way he frames his entire past. And then, oh, it gets colder, there's the loneliness factor. Because while Harry is sitting there, isolated in that cavernous room, being stared at from every angle, Meghan isn't there. No symbolic presence, no supportive hand, no we're in this together photo moment. She's back in California, and in gossip terms, the optics are loud. For a couple branded as us against the world, that empty space beside him reads like absence with meaning. And people notice. The press notices. The court of public opinion notices. And Harry, whether he admits it or not, feels it. So the scene becomes almost cinematic. The prince who fled the institution is now trapped in one of its most unforgiving arenas, law trying to weaponize it against the media, and instead, the process is stripping him down. No palace buffer, no royal machine smoothing the edges, no controlled narrative, just cold facts, hard scrutiny, and a defense team basically saying, you're not the only one with the story. And that's where the judge's shadow looms over everything. Because courts don't reward drama, they punish it. If you come in hot, swinging accusations like grenades and your proof is wobbly, the bench has a way of reminding you sharply that this isn't a moral theater, this is evidence land. And right now, Harry's walking through it like someone who thought his pain would be enough. But pain doesn't win cases. Proof does. And if the first days are anything to go by, this trial isn't just exposing how the press operates, it's exposing how dangerously Harry's own story can unravel when it's forced to stand under oath-level light. And as the hours dragged on, the courtroom didn't just feel tense, it felt predatory, like it could smell weakness. Because once the cracks show, the system doesn't comfort you, it presses harder. Harry tried to steady himself, but every answer seemed to open another door he clearly didn't want open. Dates blurred, memories wobbled. Statements leaned heavily on I believe instead of I know. And in a courtroom, I believe is basically a whisper compared to hard fact. You could feel the judge's patience thinning, not dramatically, not loudly, but in that quiet, lethal way that says, I've heard enough theatrics. Every interruption, every emotional detour was met with that icy, unmistakable reminder that this wasn't a therapy session. This was cross-examination. And then came the moment everyone felt before it even landed, the warning. Not shouted, not explosive, just firm, controlled, almost disappointed. The kind of warning that tells you the court sees what you're doing and it doesn't like it. That was the second Harry visibly deflated. Because when a judge warns you, it's not advice, it's a line in the sand. Step over it and the consequences stop being symbolic. And behind him, the absence grew louder. No familiar legal faces leaning in. No whispered strategy huddles. Just the reality that parts of his own team had already chosen distance over damage control. In gossip terms, that's when you know the ship is taking on water. What made it worse was the press gallery, silent, watching, clocking every stumble. The same media Harry came to expose was now documenting something far more devastating. A man losing control of his own narrative in real time. By the end of it, the energy had completely flipped. Harry didn't look like a warrior anymore. He looked tired, cornered, like someone who built an entire identity around fighting ghosts only to realize the real enemy might be inconsistency. Because here's the brutal truth no one wants to say out loud, this case didn't make the press look guilty. It made Harry look reckless. And when the day finally adjourned, he walked out not as a prince defying the system, but as a man learning painfully that courts don't care who you are, only what you can prove. And right now, the proof isn't screaming, it's slipping, screaming, it's slipping, screaming, it's slipping.